Между человеком и машиной победителем оказался компьютер.
DeepMind создала свою компьютерную программу с помощью одного из ярчайших умов на планете и одержала победу.
AlphaGo победила профессионального игрока, являющегося обладателем 18 мировых титулов по Go. Эта победа стала прорывом в развитии искусственного интеллекта.
Вынужден признать, я был потрясен. Я никак не ожидал этого положения. Это удивительно. оказались значительными, и поэтому я проиграл. Я не мог предвидеть. Я не думал, что Альфа-Го сумеет сыграть столь сильно. Я выигрывал мировые чемпионаты и обладаю богатым опытом. Поэтому одно поражение никак не повлияет на общий результат в матче. Чувствую, теперь наши шансы 50 на 50. Я хотел бы выразить уважение людям, сидящим рядом со мной, а также другим программистам, сумевшим разработать столь удивительную программу.
Раньше я думал, что мы убиваем только, чтобы выжить. Теперь я понимаю, что приходится убивать, чтобы творить добро. Мы должны закончить эту войну через 3 месяца. Мы должны взять суд. Смотри сам, ты ведешь себя как панк, слишком амбициозный. Думает, что может захватить Суджоу с помощью нескольких тысяч солдат. Я переживаю за вас, господин Чен. Без снабжения и подкрепления он однозначно погибнет. Между победой и поражением тонкая линия. Если я добавлю небольшой элемент, то панк сможет достичь успеха. А потом, думаешь, я позволю пангу выиграть? Оставить его ни с чем выгодно для всех.
白
いや、これは黒
黒18の
いっぱいしまし
18
たね。
白16の
今の手を
19
しっかりして。
Cho-chi-kun is without any doubt one of the most famous professional Go player, often celebrated for his funny personality, making him a living meme of the Go world. His amusing and almost cartoonish reactions, and of course, his pretty crazy hairstyle making him closer to a breakthrough in astrophysics than solving complex life and death problems. One of the youngest professional Go player in history at the age of 11 and 8 months, and still today, the player with the most titles in Japan. But outside of this joyful and pleasant character lies a terrifying beast capable of inspiring fear within any opponent with his very territorial style and his incredible reading capabilities. A master of life and death, known for living any way he wants on the Go-ban. And a fierce strategist, never hesitating to think outside the box in order to achieve his vision of Go. But how did he get there? Despite being Japanese and living in Japan for almost all of his life, Cho-chi-kun was born in Seoul, South Korea, in 1956 with the name Bong-gyun. At the time, a fortune teller told his father that if he did not change his son's name, his mother would die, whereas if he did, his baby brother would die, but then Bong-gyun would become famous. And both predictions proved accurate, as his younger brother died not long after changing his name to Cho-chi-kun. His first steps in the Go world were done with the help of his grandfather, who saw great talents in the young boy. His father later decided to send him to Japan as, at the time, the country was a promised land for anyone wanting to become a professional Go player. Cho-chi-kun arrived in August 1962 at the age of 6 at Haneda Airport, with his uncle and his brother. He was met by Kitani Minoru, his wife, one of his pupil Kobayashi Chizu, and Reiko Kitani, the master's daughter who will later be married with his future rival, Koichi Kobayashi. Just a day after arriving in Japan, Cho had to play a 5 stones handicap game against Rin Kayo, 6 dan at the time, in Kitani school in front of a large crowd. And the 6-year-old boy took the challenge very seriously, taking all the time he needed to play every move carefully, sometimes promptly nudged to play faster for the audience enjoying the game as if it was a professional game. And he won it, demonstrating the young boy's natural talent for Go. After 1 year of being Kitani's pupil number 36, the young prodigy enrolled as a Tenkyu Insei at the Nihon Kin, the Japan Go Association. At the time, other pupils used to bully him for being Korean and for being Kitani's baby. He somewhat used to be lax in his studies, being very cheeky with the other students who would never accept to play studying games with him. This became clear when his future rival Kobayashi Koichi arrived at the school. He was 3 years older and a tad weaker, but he studied very hard. However, one day, when he was 7, his mother decided it was time for him to come back home in Korea. But one precise event made him stuck to Japan. He was one day taken in the house of Takeoka Shiro, a wealthy man, patron of his master Kitani Minoru, where he would stare at a huge picture of the tiger. Takeoka Shiro then asked if Cho liked the picture, in which the boy's response was obviously a yes. "So, you can have it," said the man before his master Kitani Minoru intervened to make him the following promise. "You can have it, if and only if you can reach 1 dan at the age of 10. And so, the young boy stayed in Japan in order to become 1 dan pro and gain the well-deserved loot from his quest. He received the tiger's picture, becoming one of the youngest professional Go players in history at 11 years old after beating Michihiko Azuma in May 1968. And the picture is apparently still in Cho's home to this day. During the same year he was promoted to Shodan, Cho-chi-kun managed to climb the ladder to 2nd dan, looking very promising. Within 2 years only, he climbed to 4 dan after winning almost every game in the OTI, the Japanese ranking system with annual and biannual tournaments. As the fortune teller once said to his father, Cho was on the road to become a famous Go player. In 1972, he had a huge record of 30 wins and only 6 losses for the year, only losing twice to his rival Kobayashi Koichi in the Shin-Ei event and the 16th Prime Minister's Cup. Only 1 year later, during his Otei Games for the 6th Dan promotion, he managed to average a crazy 83.75 winning percentage. At the time, Cho was becoming a well-known player, even defeating the famous Hane Yasumasa, who was 8 Dan at the time, in a game where he demonstrated his beautiful style by boldly living in his opponent's territory and sneakily finding his group's way to life. What's phenomenal about Cho is his ability to play for 2 days without a single lapse of concentration. Then there's his intensity, his ambitious openings, his sharp middle game, and his uncompromising endgame. Sometimes his intensity does him in, because he's always playing at the right edge. Sometimes he digs his own grave, but if you wait for that to happen, you'll never overcome him, especially not in a multiple game match. To defeat him, you need to master even greater intensity, both on the board and within yourself. Cho belongs to the school that stresses the opening, and he is very good at it. The reason Cho lavishes so much time on the opening is probably that he sees the opening as having a direct effect on the outcome. But his most significant accomplishment at the time was his qualification for the 22 Nihonkin in 1974 championship by defeating Sometani Kazuo, Kato Masao, Ichida Yoshio, and Rin Kayo. Then the Kido magazine rated him as the #1 young player thanks to his powerful moves and his strong endgame. From this moment to the 1980s marked the construction of the player as a strong professional player. And 1980 is said to mark the end of Cho's first phase of his career. 1 year after he successfully won the Gosei title against Otake Hideo 3-0. With an undefeated record, the now 8 Dan player manages to win one of the biggest Japanese titles for which he was long after. Coincidentally, also against Otake Hideo. The Meijin title was now in his hands. Cho had now fully developed his versatile and flexible style, for which he told right after he won the Meijin title. I tried to match strength with strength, lightness with lightness. My ideal is to play in such a way that no one can tell who the player was. There are various elements in my game and it is somewhat chaotic. I have no special preference in the Fuseki, and if possible, I would like to master every style. The 24-year-old boy, with his dream title in hand, then decided to visit his home country, South Korea, for the first time in now 18 years. He was treated as a national hero, and even played 2 games against the Korean champion Cho Hun-yin, for which he won both. Cho Hun-hyun vowed to never lose again to Cho Chi-kun, and as he promised himself, he never lost again to Chi-kun till 2003. In 1981, Cho Chi-kun was considered one of the best Go players as he became 9 Dan in April in an Otei game, becoming once again the youngest at the age of 24. On top of the world, he managed to defend his Meijin title against Kato Masao, finishing his year with a crazy 78.3 winning rate. The year later, he added to his collection the Honinbo title and then the Judan and Kisei title in 1983, becoming the first player to hold all 4 titles for 40 days combined, with the record of holding the Meijin title for 4 consecutive years. But eventually, at the peak of his career, a terrible event occurred at the beginning of 1986. On January 6, only 10 days before the first game of the 10th Kisei tournament, Cho was parked, ready to open the door in order to go out of his car, only for a motorcycle to come around from his blind spot. The man managed to avoid the car, only to slid and overturn on his motorcycle. Cho ran to help the motorcyclist up, but when he tried to reach the bike in order to pick it up, a car hit him. Sent to the emergency room with a broken thigh, he had an operation the day after and took 3 months in total to fully recover from the event. At only 10 days of the Kisei tournament, Cho was determined to play no matter how he felt. His right hand was working well as his head, as he played in his wheelchair. Unfortunately, he lost to his rival Kobayashi to 3 games in a row. For the first time in 8 years, Cho Chi-kun had no titles. After the terrible accident, his rival Kobayashi Koichi took off and was on the peak of his own career, winning several titles a year, winning multiple times against him. The rivalry between the two men actually started a long time ago. At the time, they were both students of the Kitani Dojo, and although Cho entered 3 years earlier, thanks to his efforts and hard-working mind, Kobayashi became a professional 1 year before Chochikun. They are well known to have fought back and forth for the Kisei title, trying to be the first one with the triple title crowns. And as history will tell, Cho will be the first to make the achievement. Beyond this fierce rivalry, a huge sense of respect for each other could be seen, as in an interview before the 47th Honinbo match in 1992, Cho commented the Kobayashi first Honinbo challenge. At the time, there was a difference in strength between us, so the result was understandable. Looking at it, impartially, Kobayashi is now probably stronger than me. However, when a reporter relayed the message to Kobayashi, he replied, "Cho's just being diplomatic. I have played many professionals up to now, but my opinion remains unchanged. Cho's the strongest. His knack of playing moves that are without parallel and his severity in the fighting are something new in Go." Games between the two professional players were very entertaining, as they rarely followed established patterns and common board positions. This was due to different factors. Firstly, Cho really liked to play experimental moves, trying to seek truth on the Go board and taking all his time to read the perfect sequence of moves with his fondness for shinogi strategy. Shinogi meaning bearing, or holding up in Japanese, parrying his opponent's attacks and letting him create huge moyos before finding the perfect life under the pressure of your opponent's territory. But another factor was Cho's fondness towards perfectionism towards the opening. If the reading reveals even the smallest defect or slightest personal mistake, Cho will try his best to find another variation, no matter how unconventional. From his reading abilities and the time, patience and dedication he took for each and every move he obsessively read could emerge more wonderful and almost divine moves nobody would have think of. The third reason is Kobayashi's attacking style, pairing well with Cho's fighting spirit. Although Kobayashi used to play a territory-oriented style too, he sought a more pragmatic way to victory, securing his positions, making his way to the late mid-game and endgame, where his positional analysis and strong endgame would really shine. It was a time of changes for the now 31 years old Cho, as he suffered an identity crisis, no doubting his own play style. The confusion and doubts he was carrying with him during his games was felt as he oscillated between good and bad years, scoring a 26 wins, 20 losses in the tough year of 1919, but never truly made his way to the top of the world again since his accident. In 1992, Kobayashi was holding the 3 big titles crown, but Cho was starting to gain more and more confidence in his playstyle, as he was able to score one of his best match records in years, with almost 75% of games won. Since then, Chochikun will take the triple crown back to his rival, and go on to be the Japanese professional Go player, with the most titles in history, with 75 in total. He was also the first player in history to win all of the top 7 titles in Japan. The Kisei, Meijin, Honinbo, Jodan, Tengen, Oza, only replicated by Choyu in 2011 and Yamayuta in 2013. Chochikun is now a legend, a praised player for his style and a very respected man for his contribution to the professional Go world, as well as the amateur Go community, with his very famous Tsumego book Life and Death Dictionary. He also made a complete introduction to the game, made for beginners to discover the game and its magic, as the Japanese title reads, The Magic of Go. Although Cho was born in the 1950s, he is certainly not a player of the past. We can still see him in today's tournament, still experimenting a lot with his style, even playing a match with the artificial intelligence Deep Zen, for which he managed to win closely 2-1. In 2017, Chochikun became the first Japanese player to record 1,500 official wins and only 821 losses. It took him 49 years to achieve the record with a winning percentage of 64.6. As his tiger picture still hanging in his house, Cho Chi-kun remained a powerful figure in the Go world, still feared by today's professionals and a source of inspiration for players from around the world.